Welcome to the channel, everybody. Hey, I know it's been a while, but it's been real busy here in the shop. I had some issues going with groundwater coming up through the floor, and so I had to deal with that. Still not over yet, but I guess every cloud has its silver lining because turns out that I can braid now longer before my string dries out than I ever could before. That being said, a lot of people have been contacting me, and there's been a lot of real interesting conversations going on Facebook and on this channel about several different things. And there's one thing I'd like to tackle right now. Not too long ago, a couple of days ago, Andrew Namura, who is a very nice braider, I've seen some of his riatas, and really, really nice work. But he had a question about sharing something on how I decide what size of string I'm going to be working with. And I guess that is a very interesting point of conversation. And I think there's basically three different trains of thoughts on how you come up with what size of string am I going to use. Now, if we're talking body string, it's pretty easy. Let me see, I got this little piece here that I cut off. But anyway, if I want to make a 5/8 Boselle, okay, and I got the core that has the feel that I'm after in that Boselle, then let's say the core is a 1/2 inch, 12 millimeters. And I want to make a 5/8 Boselle, 15 millimeters. I think for me, the main point that decides that 1/2 inch core is going to turn into a 5/8 Boselle is the thickness of the string. Which means there's an 8 difference between 5/8 and a 1/2. And we're crossing these strings, so I'm going to have to shoot for a string that is 1/16 in thickness, or 1.5 millimeters. Now for me, I like the ratio of my string to be 2:1 or 2.5:1, kind of depends. But for a Boselle, I don't want to go over 2.5:1, because I think that gives a way better feel to your Boselle, and it helps in longevity and what have you. So in that case, if the thickness that I need to go to get through a certain dimension is 1/16, I'll shoot for a string that is either 1/8, 3 millimeters, or let's say in that case 3/16, which would be like a little over 4 millimeters, 4.5 maybe. But that being said, no, 4.5 would be 3:1 instead of 2.5:1. But that's kind of what I'm shooting for, and talking about how I decide what size of string that I'm going to cut for a certain project. Now, a second train of thought is there's a lot of folks that basically, I know a couple of braiders that only cut 2 sizes of string. And that's a 1/8 in maybe a couple of several thicknesses, and a 3/32. And that's pretty much all they work with. And they do a heck of a job with it. It's just like it makes your life a whole lot easier. Uh, the, the type of strings and measurements you need to have on hand is way easier. Smaller stock, um, you get height and you can go like, okay, I get, say, half of it in 1/8 and the other half of it in 3/32, whatever. Um, so that's something. And then a lot of times they will see if they have a thickness of that, let's say, 1/8 string in stock that they can use. Or they rep their core with whatever, usually tape, to get to the diameter of the core, so they will come up with the size they want. Now, another conversation we might have on that is, how do you measure or decide what size of string you're going to use if you tie a button? You know, whatever button, how do you decide that? And there are a lot of people that are really good at math, and I'm not one of them. What I'm trying to say is, there are people that will measure the circumference of a foundation for a button, and then they and even for a body, and then they have a formula on it that, let's say they want to use a 16 plat braid. They have that formula where they use the circumference of what they have and divide it, and some take a certain factor in it because your strings are laying at ideally a 45-degree angle and blah, blah, blah. I'm too challenged mentally to deal with that. I just can't. So what I do is I look at a foundation and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to try with a 3/32 or a 1/16 or whatever, and I'm going to try to make it work. And I just start off. Now, on the Rawhiders Gathering page and on his own page, Bill Black has some really, really, really good videos on braiding, and lately he showed a couple of them, and he touched on something that I think is real important. Like when you start your foundation on a button, just have in your mind like what you're trying to accomplish. Are you going to go for just an over 2 under 2 button? Or do you want to have an extra interweave with color or what have you? So that you, even on a heel nut for a bosal, like you lay your string and you keep in mind, like, I got to keep room enough for an extra string or 2 extra strings or whatever I got there. And then I just keep building that foundation up. And I got a video on that, and there's several other videos on the internet on a Turk's head or a pineapple or whatever. And I just keep on working my foundation and keep adding the bights till I got it covered to the way that I want to have it covered. And then I do my interweave. So if it turns out that I'm not getting the desired result, I go to the one measurement, or the one tool, I should say, that helps me the most and taught me the most. And it's real easy. So if I'm doing something and I'm not pleased with it, and just cut it off. And I have notes on paper or mental notes, like I used this type of string, and I had this many bights in my over one, under one foundation, and it didn't work out because, let's say, 8 bights was not enough for what I wanted to accomplish, and 10 bights was too much. Guess what? Cut it off and go for a 9 bight. You got to cut it off because to tie an odd number of bights, you break differently than you do with an even number of bights. So I start over. Once I got it, I keep it. And if it's for a heel knot on a bosal, it's just what it is, nothing more. If it's on a rein or a headstall or a set of hobbles, I know I used that measurement string to make a certain button, and I know I have that many bights, and I know how I did my interweaves and what have you, and I came up with that result, and I can duplicate it however many times I want. Now, yes, I've been doing it for a while, and for me, just winging it or playing it by ear, however you want to call it, is probably a little easier than for somebody that hasn't been doing it. But guess what? If you're starting out on your rawhide journey, one of the most important lessons that you can learn is you never lose. You never lose. Either you win and you come out with a button that you go like, man, this is probably the best button I ever tied. Or you go like, damn, I go to my teacher, just cut off whatever I need to cut off, and I start over, but I learned from it. And it's really good to have like a notebook with you where you put remarks on there, and you can go like, damn, I did that last year or 2 years ago. I'm just going to check on what I did then or how I did it. Stuff like that. So for me, I'm more of a wing it kind of guy. And if it doesn't work out, the knife, and then I try to find a solution, but I've learned from it. So that's how I do it. And so, Andrew DeMera, I hope this is a conversation starter for you, or for anybody else for that matter, and that's all we're shooting for. So, have a good day, everybody, and keep crossing one string over another. See ya.